Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and this morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Cambridge University Press. It's called English Legal History and its Sources, and it's essays in honour of Sir John Baker. It's been edited by three people, David Ibbotson, Neil Jones and Nigel Ramsay. And I'd like to thank Cambridge University Press very much for doing this, producing this work. I love English legal history. I think it's fascinating. Anybody who's involved in law and likes history, and there are many of us, will find this book particularly interesting because of what we've actually learnt over the years, if we've learnt anything. I think we have actually, because we've created the greatest legal system in the world, the common law. Now, the title we've given for the book, Elizabeth and I talked about this book in some detail because there are other books which we've also reviewed in this series. But this one we've given the title Travel Back in Time. Original sources reveal startling insights into the development of the English common law. No spoilers, but at the same time I think you will find the book really quite interesting to have a look at. And please do, because I think, frankly, a lot of English legal history is ignored by quite a lot of people, and sadly, because it affects everyone. There's the book. It's a hardback, this book. There's the book. There's the spine. Now, you can see there's some information on the back there. You've got the three people mentioned. As I say, it's quite a heavy book actually. It runs to something approaching nearly 400 pages. Very short index at the back, and then you've got the standard structure of the body copy of the book, and of course lots of footnotes. Now if I go to the front of the book, you've got the structure as usual of the introduction and so forth, and a conclusion. There is the basic information about the book, the blurb from CUP, and there he is. And there is actually the excellent front page. And as I say, it's a perfectly excellent book in my view. And I'm biased, of course, but there we go. Now there's the contents section. Law reporting, and starts off with part 1. Law reporting, part 2, courts and records of litigation. And part 3, images of the law. Part 4, legal practice and legal learning. And then a total of 20 chapters, then the index at the back. And you've got some pictures, of course, a picture at the front and a picture of the of Sir John, and then you've got the contributors who are listed there. I can't go through them in that much detail, but you can see the names. Then you've got a note about Sir John Baker. There's quite a lot of Latin, which I'm sure certain people won't like. I'm not going to mention any names of peers on this occasion, but the fact is I think the Latin is quite useful. There's quite a bit of information about Sir John. Then once you've got after that, some abbreviations, always useful. Then after that you've got statutes and cases, and the yearbooks, of course, selected cases going all the way through, because we've had a great many. These are actually quite ancient cases in many instances, which always gives the law a bit of a fusty approach, but frankly that's where it all comes from, so I don't think I'm going to be too critical. There's part 1, law reports and reporting. And of course I'm a member of Lincoln's Inn, which of course we have all sorts of very interesting books going back a very long way. There's the book anyway. As you gather, I think it's a treasure. Now, what do we say? Whether barrister or solicitors, lawyers in any category who might possibly regard legal history as perhaps not terribly relevant to their daily concerns, we think they should actually read this book and really think very carefully about it, because it is an important picture of where what we have become. And history, of course, is one of those difficult subjects. Many people hate it for its politics and so forth, but it does give you an idea of where we've come from and perhaps where we might be going. This is, of course, a recent title from Cambridge University Press, and you never know, you might find it fascinating if you read it, as we as reviewers and other people certainly do. Now, it's compiled as a tribute to Sir John Baker, who's acknowledged as the best-known legal historian of all, and the book reveals much about the development of English common law from the 12th century to the 19th, including its everyday realities. And of course, you just have to go into any law library, the big ones like the Four Inns of Court, to see the huge amount of information stored there. Now, under the able editorship of David Ibbotson, Neil Jones and Nigel Ramsay, and the contributors. They're all distinguished scholars in this field, and they've gleaned their materials and drawn their conclusions from original sources, as is the case with all good historians. That's exactly what they should do. It's consisting, of course, of documentation written and produced as permanent records at the time and on the spot. These sources include reports of litigation, reprinted and in manuscript, court records, abridgments, records of fees and accounts, legal images, conveyances, and more. This is by no means an exhaustive list. Remember, of course, that's what we've got that's remained. All sorts of other things are gone, but that's what we actually have. So that's where we base our history. Now, if fees are your thing, and they certainly are, certainly with my practice manager they are, and you are not alone in this, check out the fee records of, for example, William Stainford, practitioner in Tudor England during the Tudor period. That's reign of Henry VIII, who meticulously recorded his fees or gains, Gaynes, at the bar between the years 1839 to 40 and 1539 to 40 and 1553 to 54. My gains of the law, he calls them, since I began, SYNS, since I began to practice, and notice the words are all sort of slightly different, which was in the beginning of Lent, anno XXX, of the most dread sovereign Lord Henry. So you've got an idea of where it's coming from. It may be understating the case to say that this book really takes you back in time, because it did for me. And I obviously live near Hampton Court, so it's bound to have lots of history to it. Now, over its 20 chapters by as many contributors, the book is divided into 4 parts, namely law reports and reporting, always very, very important actually. If you go back to your very basic first few years at reading law, you'll remember the basis of law reporting and reports. Then you go on to court and records of litigation, again, sparse in some cases, images of the law, and then the legal practice and legal learning. The section on images, and that includes Magna Carta, discusses the visual symbolism and iconography of the law, which, far from being irrelevant and immaterial, as some might claim, is shown quite convincingly to complement and supplement the information provided by the records. And it's argued that such visual portrayals of the courts and the legal profession across a range of media, including insignia, prints, engravings and cartoons, convey a particular resonance of legal history and can be explored from interdisciplinary points of view. Absolutely. It's also fascinating to see how everything has developed, because we are a species that are developing all the time now in the 21st century, and all sorts of big changes are taking place again, and we have massive increases in the amount of data which is now available to us. If you go back, you see the slim law report volumes of decades past, now long gone, and then you see how many law reports we've now got and how they're all split up into specialisms. So you can see how everything has changed. Baker himself apparently assembled quite a lot of a collection of such images himself, which is of interest. There is, of course, much, much more to admire about this book and to learn from it, which appropriately ends with an essay on the glorious uncertainty of the law, 1810 to 1830. Certainly, the book offers readers one startling insight after another into the evolution of the common law, which I say is the greatest system we've ever seen. It's the best system on earth, and it certainly works. Also, I think it's important to note the amazing number of references for further research. So it's a very substantial academic work, which actually works well as a book which you can read. Now, the date of publication of the hardback edition is cited as at the 2nd of May 2019. I'm recording this in the summer of 2019. There's the book, again, spine, and then there's some blurb on the back. I haven't really taken much of the blurb, but basically this honours the work of John Baker. Let me go into the middle. Chapter 9. The 15th century accounts of the under-sheriffs of Middlesex, an unlikely source of legal history. So you've got it there, you've got the title, you've got the author, a little bit of footnoting there, and then you go straight in. And it talks, it actually takes you back in time to that particular period. And I found it, you know, once you start reading it, what I would advise you to do is, you can see how heavy some of the footnoting is. Don't bother with that. Just read the text itself, and I think you'll find it flows nicely, and you can get a picture of the old Englandy quite quickly. Now, I'm being a bit flippant, but I thought it was a splendid book. Thank you very much to everybody concerned. It's a great tribute to a great man, Sir John Baker. Thank you. Bye-bye.